you. That's legs crossed, legs in front of the knees. Whatever is most. This is a gentle flowing yoga. It is basic yoga. If at any time something is uncomfortable or you choose not to do it, you can come back to an easy seated position, or if you already know, to child's pose. So this morning, as we start our week, probably for some another crazy week, another week of unknowns, we're going to just take a moment to center ourselves to this moment, this time, this practice in our easy position. We can have our palms up or our palms down. And if we're comfortable today, we can close our eyes or perhaps just gently lower them towards the floor. We're going to take a few moments here and we're going to focus on our breath and bring ourselves to our mats. Focusing deeply on our inhalations and exhalations today. And when we breathe today, we're going to breathe in through our nose and out through our nose. And we're going to connect our minds and our bodies to our breaths, and our breath to our minds and our bodies, so that our breath and our movement become one. Inventory of how we feel with the breath coming in and out of our body, how our bodies feel, how our feelings come. We're just going to be. This morning, we're going to give ourselves permission to be right where we are. Sometimes we forget to do that. We're so busy. We've got so many things in our lives that we don't give ourselves permission to just be. So we're going to go ahead and acknowledge that it's Monday morning and we have a to-do list like we wouldn't ever have before. Or maybe we don't have a to-do list, and that's a weird new feeling for us. But we're going to acknowledge that, and we're going to just take it, and we're going to set it aside. And we're going to give ourselves permission to set it aside. Again, breathing deeply, we're going to give ourselves permission to feel today. Feel our bodies, feel our breath. And on the next exhalation, we're going to turn our heads and we're going to look over our left shoulder. We feel a nice stretch in the outside of our right side of our neck. And again, taking deep inhalations, feeling our lungs lift and our shoulders lift with each inhalation. And on our next inhalation, we're going to turn back to the right, towards the center. Breathing deeply in, and as we exhale, turning our head to the right, looking over our right shoulder, feeling that nice stretch on the outside of the left side of our neck. Inhaling back to center, and as we exhale, we're going to bend our heads back, tipping our chins towards the sky, stretching the front of our neck. Inhaling back to center. And on our next exhale, we're going to tip our chins to our chest, stretching our neck down. Feeling that nice stretch along the back of our neck, perhaps the tops of our shoulders. For those of us that may be working from home and aren't used to being on the computer at a dining room table or wherever we've made our new normal. Or perhaps we've been on the phone a lot, social media. Nice, good stretch we can take just in the middle of the day. Sometimes we forget something as simple as a nice stretch like this can help us let go of some tension. And coming back to the center, let's take our left ear and lean it down onto our left shoulder. Again, stretching the right side of our neck, but just ever so slightly different. And coming back to center, and as we exhale, putting our right ear on our right shoulder and stretching that right side of our neck. Oftentimes when we stretch all of our big core muscles, but we forget this nice thing that holds our heads onto our bodies and where we hold a lot of our tension. Let's come back to the center. Inhaling deeply, let's bring our arms to our sides and lifting them up over our heads as though we're reaching for the sky. And then let's take a moment to notice, have we lifted our shoulders into our ears, or do we need to lower our shoulders a little bit? And just feeling that nice long stretch here. As we inhale, let's lift our spines and the top of our heads towards the sky. Remembering though not to scrunch our shoulders up into our ears. And on our next exhalation, let's gently lean to the left. And inhaling back up to the center. And exhaling and gently lean to the right. And exhaling back to the center. Let's clasp our hands together as though we're holding our hands. And then turning our palms towards the sky. And just feeling that nice long stretch here. But again, remembering, do we have our shoulders in our ears? Or are we just stretching our spines and our sides? And let's exhale and lean gently to the left this way with our hands clasped. And coming back to center. And exhaling to the right. And coming back to center. One deep inhalation, lifting all the way up. And exhaling, letting go of our hands and bringing them back. Let's taking our hands and placing them behind our backs to either side behind our hips. And we're just kind of leaning back on our hands. Then we're going to take our fingertips and turn our fingertips towards our bottoms. So even though we're leaning back on our hands, our fingers are facing us. We're going to inhale deeply and we're going to bring our shoulder blades together and lift our chest towards the sky, opening up our chest and our rib cage, lifting our foreheads to the sky, and inhaling deeply here and feeling the opening in our chest. Taking several deep inhalations and exhalations here, and again, connecting our movements and our mind to our breath. And on our exhale, we're going to curve our shoulders forward and we're going to curve our back, bringing our chins to our chest. And feeling that stretch there. And on our next inhale, again, we're going to bring our heads back, shoulder blades together, shoulders back, and lifting our chest towards the sky. Feeling that nice opening in our shoulders, in our rib cage, in our heart center. Open our hearts to what comes to us today. And exhaling, coming back to center, bringing our hands loose. Inhaling, we're going to bring our arms up one more time. We're going to go through a series here. We'll walk you through it. We're going to exhale our arms down to the T. That's out to either side. Inhaling, bringing our arms to heart center. That's palms together with our thumbs on our chest. Exhaling, sliding our arms back behind our ears, hands together, and inhaling up. Exhaling down to a T. Inhaling, bringing hands together, heart center. Exhaling, arms behind our ears, palms flat to each other. Inhaling up. So we're going to do that 3 times, but at our own breath and our own pace. Each upward movement is an inhale and each downward movement is an exhale, if that helps. So one more time, exhaling to a T, slow and controlled. Inhaling to heart center. Exhaling back behind our heads, palms together. And inhaling up. Let's do 2 more at our own pace, and I'll meet you back with palms up on our knees. And once we're back with our hands on our knees, palms up, We're going to again take a few seconds here just to come back to our breath, come back to this place, letting go of every expectation we have of this moment, of this practice, of this week, of this crazy time, and just letting go of all expectations. Taking deep breaths here, feeling our abdomens expand, our rib cages expand, our hearts opening with our breath. And on our next inhalation, we're going to bring our shoulders up as far as we can towards our ears. And exhaling, we're going to bring them as far back as we can in an exaggerated motion, touching our shoulder blades together. And inhaling back to center. Inhaling up. Exhaling, exaggerated back. Inhaling down. Inhaling up. Exhaling, shoulder blades together. Inhaling down. And do a couple more of these. We can either do them exaggerated, whatever exaggerated is for us, or we could do them in just a nice, gentle lifting and placing our shoulders back. And again, sometimes during the day, if we're having a particularly rough moment, we take a deep, deep breath and inhale our shoulders up and set them back as we exhale. That helps recenter our body and our core and our heart and allows us to let go. Sometimes it takes a couple of times, but it's a really good recentering moment that we can do in the car or anywhere in our house if we need that break, if we need that moment just to put ourselves back inside. If you will, join me on our backs with our knees bent. So we're going flat to our backs, soles of our feet on the mat with our knees bent. And we're going to take our hands and we're going to put them out to our side as though we're a big T. And lifting each fingertip, spreading our fingers as wide as we can as though they're starfish. We're going to press into the mat, starting with our pinky fingers and working our way to our thumbs, forming a nice solid foundation with our hands on the mat and feeling the strength and the power that we have when we're connected. Whether we're connected to the earth, connected to our mat, or connected to each other like we are this morning with our Team RWB family. The connection of our feet solely planted on the mat, and our bottoms and our backs. And we're going to take a deep breath here, feeling the inhalation come all the way up through our abdomen, all the way through our rib cages into our hearts. Taking a few deep breaths here. And on our next exhalation, keeping our feet flat on the mat, we're going to gently drop our knees to the left as we exhale. Feeling a nice long stretch along the whole outside of our bodies. Inhaling our knees back to the center. And on our next exhalation, we're going to gently drop our knees to the right while leaving our feet on the floor. Again, feeling that nice long stretch on the outside. And coming back to center, we're going to do that one more time on each side. Inhaling deeply and exhaling, lowering our knees to the left. Inhaling to the center. Exhaling our knees to the right. Coming back to center. And we're going to bring our feet, the heels of our feet, as close to our bottoms as we can, or whatever feels comfortable for us. And from here, we're going to form a bridge with our bodies. And we're going to lift as though somebody has tied a string to our belly buttons, and they're pulling our belly buttons up towards the sky. And our bottom follows our belly button. And our thighs serve as the lifting. So as we inhale, we're going to lift our bottoms up, our belly buttons up, lift 2, 3, hold 2, 3, exhale down 2, 3. And focusing on tying our breath to our bodies here, inhaling slowly 1, 2, 3, holding 1, 2, 3. Exhaling 1, 2, 3. And one more time. Inhaling, lifting up. 1, 2, 3. Holding. 1, 2, 3. Exhaling. 1, 2, 3. Now let's go ahead and let's loosen our fingertips and bring our knees to our chest and just grabbing hold just below our knees on our fronts of our shins with our hands and just feeling the difference that we have here with our backs pressed onto our mats, that strength, that comfort that the solid ground gives us. Again, that sense of connection that we can take from our mats into our daily lives, knowing that we are connected, that we're connecting to ourselves and to each other. And we can remember that or carve out time again to come back to that connection. And let's inhale a little bit and exhale here. But while we're doing that, let's perhaps point and flex our toes, rotating our toes left to the right, circling one direction and then the other. And let's rock into a circular motion, bringing our knees towards us and rocking away, forming a circle with our legs. We should be feeling a nice, gentle massage of our lower back here, perhaps working out some of the kinks that we get that we don't realize are there. And if it feels good, perhaps rotating again in the opposite direction. Just slowly working out the tension. Taking note, are we clenching our teeth? Do we have our eyebrows wrinkled up? Then coming back to center, let's hug our knees to our chest deeply as we inhale. And exhale and gently let loose. And inhaling our knees, holding them tight. Again, feeling the difference and exhaling them loose. Let's place our feet on the mat and gently roll over to our hands and knees. Coming to our hands and knees, we want to be careful here. We want to make sure that our wrists are stacked directly below our elbows and our elbows are stacked directly below our shoulders, and that our hands are aligned with our shoulders. We want our knees to be hip distance apart with our knees stacked directly below our hips. This forms really good alignment for our bodies, and so much of our lives right now is out of alignment. So it's really important that here on our mats, for our bodies, for our spirits, for our souls, that we make sure we stay in alignment where we can control it. We're going to take a couple of deep breaths here, again, noticing how our breath feels with our body and how it feels to be connected in this position. We're going to curl our toes, flatten our toes so the tops of our feet are down. We're just going to take a couple of deep breaths here. We're just going to make sure that the crown of our head, the top of our head, is in alignment with our back of our cervical spine, the back of our neck, all the way down our back towards our tailbone to form a nice straight line. Imagining that this is a table and that we have something on top of it that we just don't want to lose. From here, we're going to take our left hand, we're going to reach it out in front of us, and we're going to take our right foot and we're going to reach it out behind us. And if this is all we're comfortable with, that's fine, but perhaps we want to give ourselves a little bit of more of a challenge this morning, and we're going to lift both our left hand and our right foot. And we're going to push forward with our hand and back with our foot, forming a nice, long, dynamic tension, keeping that straight. And if at any time that's too uncomfortable or we're not comfortable at all with it, we can just lower our hands and our feet and still feel that nice, long, opposing stretch for some spinal balance here. Again, maybe we're feeling out of balance, and we're going to give ourselves permission to find our balance here on our mats this morning. And inhaling, bringing both our hand and our knee back down. Again, making sure that we've got them stacked appropriately and that we've lined back up. It's reaching out with our right hand and reaching back with our left foot. And if we're ready and we choose to, let's lift our right hand and our left foot. Again, reaching and pushing forward with your right hand and back with your left foot. feeling that tension, that line, as though someone's pulling them in opposite directions. Again, taking note of our breath, our facial expressions. Are we pushing our tongue into the roof of our mouth? Are we clenching our face? And inhaling back to center. Again, stacking and aligning it properly. Let's do that one more time on each side. Left hand out, right foot back. And if we're ready, lifting and pushing forward and back and feeling that nice long sense of balance. Holding our stomachs, feeling our breath. And on our next inhalation, coming back to center. Inhaling deeply, exhaling right hand out, left foot back. And when we're ready, lifting. Again, reaching for that tension, going forward and pushing back with our feet. Keeping our heads nicely aligned. Focusing on our breath. Working on our balance. And coming back to center. Let's place our toes together, maybe perhaps spreading our knees a little bit farther out. And let's sink our bottoms back as though we're going to sit on our heels. And if we're comfortable today, sliding our arms forward and bringing our foreheads to the mat in child's pose. And child's pose is a position of rest. Now, if we have issues with our shoulders, having our arms out in front of us may hurt. We can bring our hands back together, making fists with each of our hands and stacking one fist on top of the other with our forehead on them. I personally find this position to be exceptionally relaxing. If we have knee issues and this is too tight for us, we can come back up to a seated position or adjust our knees where it's not as uncomfortable. If you spread them out a little bit farther, sometimes that's more comfortable. And if maybe we might want to try a different way, we might want to take our arms and put them back to our sides where they're on either side of our legs. Any one of these resting positions is a good way to just center ourselves, protect our hearts, and keep our energy close as we breathe. Let's take a moment here to inhale and exhale and really focus on, can we feel our breath coming all the way up into our bodies? Can we hear our breath? I think sometimes we only hear our breath when we're panting from exertion. Let's make a conscious effort to hear our breaths as we breathe in, as we breathe out. If we've moved our hands to our forehead or to our sides, let's bring them out in front of us one more time. Again, spreading our fingertips as though they're starfish and pressing each fingertip down into the mat to form a solid connection. Lifting back up to our knees and curling our toes. We're going to press up onto our arms as though we're back into tabletop. And we're going to curl our toes and lift our bottoms up into the air as though we're being pulled up by a string there. We can keep our knees bent here if it's more comfortable for us, or perhaps we want to stretch our legs down, heels towards the mat, but knees bent is totally okay. Lowering our head so that the crown of our head is facing towards our thumbs, the crown of our head being the tops of our head, with our ears between our elbows. And we're going to just bicycle a little bit, keeping both feet on the mat. We're going to bring one knee towards an elbow and then the other knee towards an elbow, and just kind of bicycle out that and kind of open up our hips a little bit here. Bringing our knees back straight or a slight bend. From here, in this downward dog position, we're going to pivot forward as though we're coming into a plank position, or lowering our knees into a kneeling plank, whichever is most comfortable for us. And holding this plank for just a second or two. And then gently lowering ourselves, keeping our elbows close to our sides, bringing our thighs down, our bellies down, our chest down with our elbows close to us. And inhaling with our feet flat, pushing up, our arms straight, and lifting up. Lowering our knees and pushing back into child's pose. Curling our toes under, pushing up onto our arms, lifting our bottoms into air into downward dog. Pivoting forward into plank or kneeling plank, whichever is most comfortable. Keeping elbows close to our bodies, gently lowering down. Tops of our legs, bellies, chest, feet flat on the floor, and pushing up in your arms. For upward facing dog. And pushing back into child's pose. Taking a second here, inhaling and exhaling. Noticing if your body's starting to feel perhaps a little bit warmer. Curling our toes, coming up into tabletop, pushing up into downward dog, pivoting forward into plank, holding in plank or kneeling plank, whichever is comfortable. Elbows close, gently lowering down, thighs, belly, chest, and then pushing arms up for upward facing dog. And back into child's pose. And this will be our last downward dog here. Toes up, pushing into downward dog, and then gently walking our feet forward so that we're in a forward folding position where our feet are flat on their mats, but our bodies are bent forward with our knees slightly bent. And we're just gonna stand here for a moment and just kind of let us go. Let our arms relax. Let our heads relax and just feel our breath here. Inhaling deeply, and as we exhale, we're going to walk our fingers around to the left side of our ankle, our left ankle, and feel that nice little stretch there. And inhaling back to our center and exhaling to the right side and inhaling back to center. And inhaling, we're going to come halfway up with our hands on our shins, and we're going to imagine that our body is forming the number 7, and our head and our back and our tailbone are straight, and our legs in the bottom half of the body forms the bottom part of the 7. And exhaling, we're going to lower loose again, bringing our hands towards the mat, and slightly bending our knees, and bringing our arms out to our sides as though we're getting ready to take off. We're going to inhale and straighten our bodies and come all the way up, arms up above us. And exhaling, arms down. Take a few moments here maybe to adjust our pants, our shirts, our hair, whatever feels most comfortable. Maybe wiggle our hips out a little bit. Whatever, just coming back to this place in this moment as we've transitioned from a ground position to a standing position. We're going to place our feet firmly on our mats with our feet stacked directly below our hips, which are stacked directly below our shoulders, facing the tops of our mats. We're going to take a deep breath and lift our shoulders and bring them back, and our hands beside us. And let's lift each toe and press each toe into the mat and form a nice solid foundation with our toes here. And inhaling, lifting our arms all the way up. And exhaling our arms back down. And let's do that one more time. Inhaling, arms up. And as we exhale this time, we're going to hinge at our hips and slightly bend our knees and fold forward. And we're going to imagine that we're putting our belly on our thighs, and we're going to let our arms come forward. Slightly bending our knees, arms to our sides, and coming to a standing position with our arms all the way up above us. And exhaling our arms back to our sides. And one more time, we're going to inhale our arms up. And as we exhale, we're going to bring them to our sides, slightly bending our knees, hinging forward, sticking our bottoms out, placing our bellies on the fronts of our thighs and coming forward. Bending our knees slightly, bringing our arms out beside us in a reverse swan dive, coming all the way back up, arms in front of us, bringing our arms down in front of us and sitting our bottoms back as though we're going to sit on a chair. And perhaps today, maybe we would like to lift our arms a little bit up in the sky. Perhaps we'd like to leave them in front of us. Maybe we're more comfortable bringing them to heart center. Yogi's choice. And maybe for this morning, you might want to lift your right heel up off the mat, or maybe your left heel up off the mat. Or maybe today we want to be in a balanced chair and we want to lift both heels up off the mat. Again, focusing on our breath, inhaling and exhaling. If we've lifted our feet off the mat, let's bring them back to the mat, slightly bending our knees, bringing our arms, inhaling all the way up. Exhaling, arms to our side, forward folding. And inhaling back up. And coming back to standing mountain pose. We're going to take our feet and we're going to place them a little bit wider than our hips, with our toes facing out so that the insides of our thighs are kind of opened up. And with our arms, we're going to take our arms to our sides and spread our fingers wide like starfish and bring our starfish up in the air. And this move, what we're going to do here is, as our arms are up with our elbows still bent, so it's kind of like a totem pole. As we inhale, we're going to lift our arms up, and as we exhale, we're going to squat, bringing our elbows down into our sides. So inhaling up and exhaling down, squatting, elbows into our sides. Inhaling up, exhaling, squatting, bringing elbows down to our sides. Inhale, exhale down. Inhale, exhale down. Inhale, exhale down. Inhale, exhale down. And on the next inhale, we're going to come back up. And as we exhale, we're going to stretch our arms up and bring them back to our sides and step back to the center of our mats. Taking a moment here to feel our breath from our toes. Imagine, if you will, that we're bringing our breath all the way up through our toes, up through our legs, up through our bellies, up through our chest, into our breath, and exhaling it down. Again, imagine that breath is coming all the way up through our toes, through our legs, through our abdomen, through our rib cages, through our breath, through our chest, and exhaling down. And again, focusing on our breath and how our body's feeling. With our right foot, we're going to step back to the back edge of the mat. So our front toes are facing the front of the mat. Our back toes are facing the long edge of the mat. And we're going to bend that front knee with our hips and our shoulders facing towards me, or towards the front of your mat, however your position. We're going to inhale, and we're going to bring palms together and arms up for warrior one. Again, noting, did we lift our shoulders into our ears, or have we relaxed our shoulders and our arms are just up? Feeling that nice stretch. And while we're in warrior one, let's tuck our tailbone in and lift those pelvic floor muscles and feel the difference there. And exhaling while keeping that front knee bent, We're going to rotate our hips and shoulders to face the long edge and float our arms down. Again, looking out over that bent knee in the front and feeling that nice, strong strength in our bodies. Again, maybe focusing on tipping our tailbone under and tightening that pelvic muscle. And lowering our back arm to our back leg, turning our front arm palm up and swooping up with that front arm. Stacking our fingers over our wrist and our wrists over our shoulders. Opening up that side and our heart. And on our next exhale, lowering our arm and stepping back to the front of our mats. Taking a moment perhaps to adjust, taking a deep inhalation, setting our shoulders, and stepping back with our left foot. So now our right foot is facing the top of our mat, our left foot is facing the side of our mat. Gently bending our front knee, turning our hips and shoulders to face the front of the mat. Inhaling our arms up, palms together. Again, if we choose, we can tuck that tailbone and lift that pelvic muscle. Noticing our breath here. Noticing if we're a little bit more awake. Again, letting go of any judgment, any expectations we have. On our next inhalation, float our arms down, palms down, turning our hips and shoulders towards the side of the mat, but leaving that front knee bent and looking out over that front arm. Lowering our back hand to our back leg, turning our front hand palm up and sliding our arm up. Exhaling our arm down and stepping back to the front of the mat. Again, taking a moment perhaps here to adjust just a little bit. With our hands, we can place them on our hips, we can place them to our sides. So let's bring our left foot to our right ankle. And perhaps today this is all the balance we want to do in our tree pose. But maybe this morning we're feeling a little bit more confident, a little bit more sure of ourselves. And maybe we want to lift our foot to our calf. Or maybe today we want to lift it to the inside of our thigh. Whatever we want to do, that's what works for us. Just being careful not to place it directly on the knee joint. Would hate for us to fall and break our branches. And today, if you're feeling very confident or it feels right to you, maybe you want to lift your branches to the sky, reaching for the sun. Or maybe we just want to stay with the hands to our sides and our foot propped on our ankle. And that's okay too. There is no competition here. This is each person's practice, and what works for them is what works. Sometimes, again, we have to give ourselves permission to be who we are, where we are. Let's come back to center. And let's take our right foot to our left ankle here. And when we're ready, if we're ready, we can lift that foot up. And perhaps we notice that we're a little bit more stable on one side or the other. Maybe our right foot is a little bit stronger than our left foot. Maybe we're balanced better. That's something we can take into our lives, right? Because there are areas where we're balanced and areas where we're not. But we can always come to our mats and work on our balance. And again, if you're comfortable, maybe you want to lift your branches to the sky. Sometimes it helps if we find a spot out in front of us and we gently focus on that spot. Kind of like when we have a goal and we're reaching towards that goal and we focus on it, we find balance as we strive towards that. When we give ourselves permission to have a goal or a feeling, let's bring both feet back to the mat. Taking a moment here, let's again inhale deeply. Exhaling, we're going to take our right foot and we're going to cross our left knee. And we're going to gently bend our left knee and just balance for a second. Again, noticing how it feels differently here than perhaps in tree. And if we're comfortable, perhaps we can take a seated position as though we're sitting on a chair. And then coming back to a standing position and bringing our knee down, our foot down. We're going to cross our left ankle over our right foot, our right knee, and slightly bend our knee. And if we're comfortable and we choose, then we can take as though we're seated into chair. Again, focusing on our breath, how it feels with each movement. Are we squishing our face? We're pressing our tongue against the roof of our mouth. And coming back to center. Inhaling, arms all the way up, nice deep stretch. Exhaling, forward folding, and this time we're going to place our hands flat on the mat and take a step back with feet, dropping our knees, swirling our feet around and coming to a seated position. And again, we're going to go straight to our backs here. And we're just going to lay flat on our backs for a moment. Our feet long in front of us. Placing our hands on our bellies. And just taking a moment here just to focus on our breath. Notice if perhaps we're breathing a little harder than when we started. Noticing perhaps that we can notice our breath. Giving ourselves permission to be in this moment with our breath in our body and each other. Just noticing, is our shoulders tight? And how we feel for a moment. And taking our arms, let's again put them out to our sides as though we're forming a T. Starfish fingers pressing down. And bringing our right knee towards our chest, leaving our left foot long. Let's gently twist to the left. So our right knee is coming over the top of our left foot, our left leg. And inhaling back to center and lowering that right foot, bending that left knee towards your chest, and exhaling and twisting to the right. Coming back to center, let's bend both knees here. And bringing our knees to our chest. And grabbing just below our shins, we're just going to have a knees to chest here, a couple of deep breaths. Again, noticing how our body feels as we breathe. And then we're going to let our knees fall open so that our knees are wide out past our shoulders. And perhaps this is just where we want to sit right here and feel that nice stretch in the insides of our legs. But if we can, let's lift the soles of our feet towards the sky. And perhaps we're feeling a little shaky in our thighs, a little shaky in the insides of our legs, and that's okay. And if we're not comfortable with shaky, we can always just lower back to knees to chest. And let's slide our hands, if we choose, up the sides, insides of our legs, and maybe grab hold of our big toes, or perhaps the insides of our arches, to just strengthen and deepen that stretch a little bit more on the insides of our hips. Feeling that connection there on the mat. And letting go of our feet or sliding our hands back in, let's lower our feet to the mat. And again, let's do that one more time, knees to chest. And if this is where we want to stay, that's totally okay. Let's lift our heels to the sky, opening our legs. And if we choose, we can reach up and grab that big toe. Again, there's no judgment, no expectation here. And letting go of our feet, if we grabbed hold of them, and bringing our feet back to the mats. Taking a few moments here, putting our hands on our bellies, and really paying attention to our breath. Can we feel our breath come through our abdomen, to our rib cages, up into our heart chest, our heart center? Or are we breathing shallow in the top of our chest? Sometimes if we place our hands on either side of our stomachs, we can actually focus on feeling that breath, that life-giving breath, that relaxing breath. Imagine, if you will, there's a balloon in your belly. And you're trying to fill that balloon in your belly up with air as we breathe in. And notice the difference when we breathe on our own versus when we consciously breathe in our belly and we belly breathe. Again, let's fill that balloon up. And notice how when we do that, when we notice and we pay attention to filling that oxygen in our abdomen, how we can note that it comes up through our rib cages and into our hearts. Let's do that one more time. Deeply breathing in, filling our balloon. And then breathing out and feeling that balloon go completely flat. Let's take our right ankle and place it over our left knee. And with our right hand, gently pressing on our right thigh. And if this is the stretch that feels comfortable for us today, we can stay right here. But perhaps today, if we want a little bit more opening, a little bit more stretch, we can lift that left knee towards our chest while our right ankle is crossed over it. Feeling that nice stretch on the outside of our glutes and on the insides of our thighs. And if this is too much, we can always just lower our foot back to the mat. Again, remembering to breathe and noticing, are we clenching our teeth, scrunching our forehead? Do we have our tongues pressed to the roof of our mouth? Are we breathing? Exhaling our left foot back to the mat, bringing our right foot down. Crossing our left ankle over our right knee. And again, if this is the stretch, we're comfortable with this morning, we absolutely can stay here. We give ourselves permission to do this. Or perhaps if we want to try something a little bit harder, we can bring that right knee towards our chest, stretching the outer hip and the outer thigh. Again, there's no pain here. It's gentle. Again, focusing on our breath, giving ourselves permission to feel. And lowering our right foot to the mat and bringing our left foot to the mat. And it doesn't matter where our hands are now. Let's gently exhale and lower our knees to the left. Again, stretching out nicely. Inhaling back to center and lowering our knees to the right. And then let's come back to center and let's find ourselves a comfortable position on our backs. Whether that's knees bent or knees out to our sides or our legs straight in front of us. Let's come to a nice, comfortable position on our backs. Perhaps we'd like to spread our feet just a little bit wider than our hips. With our hands to our sides, palms up. Loosening our shoulder blades and our bottoms. Feeling our feet in the backs of our legs on the mat. And just taking a few moments here to come into final relaxation. Giving ourselves permission to settle ourselves. To prepare ourselves as we move forward with the rest of our day. Permission to let our minds go, to let all the details go. And just taking this time to breathe. Maybe focusing on your little toe on your left foot. Working that feeling across to your big toe. Working to your little toe on your right foot. Relaxing the top of the feet. Letting our ankles fall gently. Not holding our feet up in any position, but just letting them relax. Letting go of any tension we may have in our calves or our shins. Those strong muscles that we get from running and biking and walking and just standing. Just letting go of the tension there. Loosening our knees. Letting our quads, these big solid muscles that do so much for our bodies, just letting them relax. Giving ourselves permission to just let them go. Loosening up our bottoms. Maybe adjusting a little bit if we're feeling that we're tense there. Imagining our hips and our pelvis just opening and feeling loose. Letting go of the tightness. Loosening our abs, our stomach. So many times we clench our abs in fear or stress or worry. You can let that go here. We're in a safe place. We have permission to be safe. Again, taking notice of our breath. Letting our fingers relax, our palms. Perhaps our hands fell outward when we thought about it. Perhaps we were unconsciously holding them tight. Letting go of our forearms. Letting our triceps and biceps melt to the floor. Opening up our ribs and our chest and allowing the breath to flow easily. Letting our collarbones just melt back onto the mats. Giving our shoulders permission to relax. Loosening the tops of our necks. Relaxing our necks. Letting go of our jaw. Letting our lips fall slack. Our cheeks relax back to our ears. Relaxing the space between our nose and our lips. Relaxing under our eyes. Letting go of the wrinkles between our eyes and our ears. Unfurrowing our foreheads. Letting our foreheads relax back into our scalps. And just breathing. Just being where we are in this moment. This wonderful, wonderful moment. Giving ourselves permission to be right here. Permissions to love ourselves. Permission to feel all the feelings we may be having. Permission to come back to the mat if we need to find balance. Permission to breathe. It comes so naturally, we forget about it. And when we're ready, bending our toes, wiggling our hands, swallowing, and rolling either to our right or our left side, and coming to a fetal position on either our right or our left side, whichever is most comfortable. Again, noticing our breath here. And gently pushing up into a seated position of our choice. And taking a few moments here in our seated position, perhaps setting our shoulders and feeling our breath, inhaling deeply and exhaling, and inhaling, arms up, palms together, exhaling, heart center, chin to chest. Thank you so much for sharing your practice with me this morning.
Thank you as well.
Good morning, Joyce.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you very much. My first time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. It was amazing.
Thank you, Joyce. It's wonderful.
And don't forget to check in.
Thank you. Already did.
Much.
See you again.
Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, Joyce.
Thanks, Joyce. You did a great job.
Thank you, Joyce and Amanda.